The next chapter that we are going to speak about is on logistics and or logistics management, whatever we say it, and we try and cover aspects around logistics or e-commerce or logistical trends. There are a lot of aspects that we are going to discuss through this chapter. Now, as logistics management, the definition is use of technology. There is data analysis, there is project planning, and general management skills that enables the efficient movement of inventory and information from raw material production phase to distribution to the end consumer. So the whole process, and not just the process or the movement, but also in enabling that process or movement we use our data, we use technology, we use planning. So all of that all together forms logistics management. It is also about processing orders, it is about maintaining inventories, it is about transporting goods. So within the warehouse, logistics would involve processing order. It would involve inventory levels check. It would involve transporting goods. Given that the industry that we are in, like many other industries, we compete on price, service, and accessibility. That is coupled with the fact that industry is highly geographically dispersed, and logistics is a key factor that we need to ensure that the product is delivered to the distribution channels of brick and mortar stores and to online venues. So, logistics as such plays a very active role in the transportation of raw materials. Global logistics, okay, the global logistics sector is also comprised of a complex network of freight, of cargo related entities like your shipping, your warehousing. There is courier, there is road, rail, and air freight. So, as in general, it is being estimated that the global logistics market's revenue is expected to expand and reach around $15 trillion in by the end of 2023, which is a huge number, which also says that how much of logistics is being needed on a regular basis globally. And the global transportation service market is also one of the most fastest growing sectors, which has grown almost close to 10% already in the past 10 years. So, when the worldwide consumption experiences a shift in demand due to the growth in emerging markets and buying preferences, the global logistics market also sees demand that is moved from the traditional Western economies to new areas of opportunities like your China, India, and other Asian economics, the Middle East, Latin America, etc. Then I just want to speak in short a bit about our leading logistics companies, and this is not local as in South African, but leading logistics companies globally. So, as with every industry, there are market leaders in the global logistics sector. Um, and there was this company by the name United Parcel Services, or we call it as UPS, which was founded more than 100 years ago as just a messenger service, and it has now evolved to be one of the largest US package delivery companies with a revenue close to 80 billion US dollars. So, which says that how fast the idea of owning an item that is no more a local item but more of a global item, and then the desire or willingness to own it enhances the need for logistics growth in the market. Then we all have heard about FedEx, okay? Um, And FedEx is also an American global carrier service, and they also have a revenue almost equal to UPS, just the one that I just explained now, based on their annual report. And not just that, FedEx have also carved their own area of expertise in international trade services, such as your customs brokerage, ocean freight, air freight, forwarding services. So they have their own niche already. Then we have DHL. DHL is the largest worldwide logistics solution providers. They have almost close to 50,000 employees, and they are present currently over 220 countries in the world. So they also logistic company that deals with transportation. Yeah, so these are few of the leading logistic companies that we all also know that operates in South Africa. Then we speak a bit about major logistic trends. Now, as the sourcing and the selling aspects of retail have become more complex, logistics has also evolved from low skill, labor intensive processes to data driven strategic functions that require management skills, that require real time information, that require collaborative relationships over transactional relationships. So, collaborative, like we were speaking in our supply relationships as well, is where you share the role, you share the expenses, you share um, a lot of transactional issues or damages together. Over transactional is very formal, where there is just a barter system kind of relationship, like give and take in return, just that. So companies are also being more collaborative nowadays, because today's logistics professionals, they are facing the hurdles of managing a global sourcing business, because they have to now meet the demands of traditional retailing, they have to meet the demands of fast fashion, e-commerce business models, while they also have to at the same time address concerns around consumers about being socially responsible manufacturing facilities and manufacturing processes. So, additionally, the B2C is your business to consumer. It also includes businesses that sells goods or services directly to the consumer, e-commerce market. That is also causing a tremendous increase in the volume of parcels or couriers, because consumers are purchasing with the expectation of free shipping. Sorry. So e-commerce retailing also needs modifications of warehousing procedures. It needs modifications around order fulfillment and return procedures. So logistics is also being forced to address retailers' movement to use a push versus a pull inventory strategy that will enable them to respond to consumer demand. So these are the current logistical trends that are doing rounds. Okay, then moving on to the next slide, we have e-commerce. And with the growth of e-commerce, the regional distribution centers are no longer the central drop off points, okay, for inventory. Instead, they have created or located mini fulfillment centers throughout a retailer's selling footprint. So, which means the e-commerce market has led to rise of a time specific delivery service. You would have seen in Woolies app, they have, if you purchase over 500, or depends if it is a branded item of Witchery, Trinity or Country Road, then it can be below 500, but in general, um, 450 plus, they allow free shipping. And what do they also do? They make sure that when you selecting the options and you choose on the app, what is the date that you expect. If you have a specific time slot in mind, they charge like about 25 rand, but they say that while you're filling it up, but at the point where you say check out, they sometimes, most of the times, don't even add it. I guess depends how closely a store where this particular item is available or a distribution center is located. And you can also have the choice of selecting time slots, which is amazing because you know this particular time you're available, you at home. Even during this COVID times, they have that app which works perfectly. And also they have nowadays, I think they have added crash deliveries and instant delivery of home items or clothing. And even if you open the app, it shows how early you can receive your next order if you're placing an order online now. So they are indirectly making sure that they don't just carry out e-commerce, but also they make sure there is a time definite express delivery service. So for these reasons, many retailers they have moved to insourcing logistic solutions. Um, I think Amazon also does a similar thing with its warehousing operations, where they opened a big distribution depot earlier to service the UK market. Okay, and then so they do it directly to the doorstep of the consumer. There are many large retailers who are also highly negotiating or increasingly negotiating with the idea that suppliers hold the inventory and then they distribute the goods directly to the retail outlets instead of the retailers assuming the capital cost and the overhead that is associated when it comes to managing these large distribution centers. Okay, so not only are the suppliers assuming that the capital and labor cost that is associated when it comes to holding inventory, but they are also making sure that they are incurring additional transportation cost because they are making more frequent deliveries now to the retailers. So this is what we also called as vendor inventory management. Okay, and then that additional cost obviously is passed on to the retailer. So this e-commerce business model, okay, that has forced warehouses to tackle challenges around making sure that they manage leaner inventory levels. They try fulfilling small order sizes. They try storing larger SKUs or your stock keeping unit categories, and also processing quick order turnarounds and delivering increased customer packaging and value added services. So this concept of warehousing has changed greatly because of increase in automation and advanced process management procedures. So you don't have to carry out the traditional way anymore. Now, because the delivery requirements for e-commerce orders are more or less centered around individual preferences, which means something that I want specifically according to my requirements, general delivery options like your bulk shipments has completely moved away, and that there is an increased value add services that primarily support this individual package market, which means there is no more bulk sending off to retailers so you package it a certain way, but rather there is a niche package marketing markets that is when it's being sent to individual customers. And this market is constantly growing in size, it's growing in terms of frequency of delivery. So I don't want to buy clothes already for this season. I will prefer rather buy one now because I know it's free delivery, so I'm still paying the same price. If I would have gone and bought it from the store, I would then give it a while and at the same time manage my credit and budgets as well, and then buy it again for a second item if I need to buy one. And they also making sure that they keep it still cost effective. Um, what again is this to make sure or to pursue a more effective delivery strategy, retailers like Amazon are testing common locker delivery systems, which means they require the consumer to pick up items rather than have them delivered to the door. So, of course, for a fee, companies will continue to do the same day delivery to residences, but this is something that they have done. So, there will be one, there's a community or there is a property where there are 200 houses, and then they have one common delivery system. And Amazon makes sure that instead of coming into the property and visiting these 50 or 200 houses, they drop it off at a common locker by the gate or somewhere in the property, and then people whoever have ordered from them just pick it up. So it also works both ways in terms of managing cost, because remember, whatever the company is doing, they also indirectly trying to save the on cost for us as consumers, but at the same time they have to like um, you know do a lot of things in order to make that facility available to us. Okay. Then we move on to increasing the significance of distribution centers. Okay, so warehouses, as we know, are used to store our large amounts of inventory for long periods of time, whereas distribution centers are normally used to hold small amounts of inventory, that is only to fulfill customer orders, and to make sure that they replenish the stores. So, because of this order fulfillment process, for e-commerce purchases, distribution centers, they have grown so much nowadays, and retailers have had to relocate their distribution centers close to their customers. In addition to that, in addition to storing inventory, distribution centers have also provided value-added services such as your labeling, such as customer support for online purchases. Now, there are many e-commerce companies that look to enhance the customer experience through their order packaging and delivery services. Distribution centers are key in the online customer servicing process. Okay, because of the need for retailers to keep up with the demands of their consumers for quick delivery turnaround times and for an omni-channel shopping experience, brick and mortar retailers have also started allocating store space for in-store order pickup and ship from store order fulfillment options. Okay, these stores also, they have taken on a local distribution center role for these retailers, like for example, in US, for brands like Gap and Banana Republic, they offer the option to shop online and they reserve the items in the store for pickup. This option is also, makes sense and attracts customers who are looking to receive purchases without any delay. We in South Africa, I think I know Truewords does that, and they make sure that you can choose the option of delivering any closest store nearby where you stay, and you go fetch it. And the nice thing is, you don't have to sit at home and then go back to the store and return. You have a choice or option of unpacking the package. You open it, you check it, you can even go try it in the trial room, and if you're not happy, you just return it then and there itself, in the store. Okay, then moving on to making sure that the pressure. So while the industry is moving more to a collaborative supply chain model versus a transactional model, the cost pressure is still a very important factor in logistics management. Like I said, in order to make all of that happen, there's a lot of cost containment that needs to happen. So because most e-commerce retailers, they have essentially moved to a free shipping model, and because the movement of raw materials and finished goods is a significant portion of the overall cost of production, there is a constant pressure to see how this product can be transported and warehoused at a reduced cost. Now there is a challenge for them because they have to make sure they use the best quality raw materials to make the best product possible, but at the same time, they have to make sure they reduce the cost when it comes to delivering. Then, the logistic procedures are also being constantly monitored. In order to make that happen, they are monitoring and ensuring what can be further done or what way the resources can be utilized effectively to constantly save, or even as value added service of logistics, such as your customer service support when it comes to packing and delivery services and return management. They are making sure that they try and save um, on or try and find out alternate options of containing the cost. But now there are certain things that is affecting, which is your infrastructure disruption. So which is since logistics is all about coordination of the movement of inventory and information, there are numerous points of risks and possible disruptions that might occur, and one doesn't have a control over it, and it can occur anywhere in the supply chain. um, there can be issues around land and labor costs, there can be issues around manufacturing in coastal areas, or there can be issues around managing or manufacturing in areas where there is natural disasters due to climate change. So there can be any kind of disruption in the supply chain which can be a major concern. Then there is political and economic viability. Is in addition to the natural disasters, companies must also try and look for means to protect their supply chain from thefts or from threats such as your cargo theft. There can be labor strikes, there can be terrorist attacks, there can be political uncertainty, cybercrime, and all of these factors pose a threat to the company's supply chain. And not just that, it has been seen that globally the cargo theft has been estimated to grow by about 2 billion US dollar, and it's not just restricted to US but many other parts of the world as well. And yes, South Africa is also one of them. Then we have increasing regulations, where the shipping regulatory environment is experiencing changes that is potentially around increase in cost and delay in the movement of international freight. That is where rules and regulations come into picture. And one of them is the International Maritime Organization, which is basically a treaty that focuses on the safety of merchant ships. It requires the verification of containers before they are being loaded. Then the shippers are informed about it. So there is a lot of ways that companies are trying to protect and manage, and at the same time keep the cost low. Okay. Um, then moving on to the next slide. Role of technology in logistics management. Okay. So to meet this growing demands that is being caused by the request for more time sensitive deliveries, for specialized service offerings, and control costs, companies are constantly continuing to turn to technology for achieving, automated solutions. Additionally, they also need to meet the expectations of the retailing experience that is causing retailers to look for innovations in the area of inventory management, to look for innovations in the area of order delivery tracking and customer support. Now, technology is also being deployed to improve data collection, which is also increasingly becoming important in the management of complex organizations. So, technology ensures that there is time sensitive deliveries, it ensures that there is specialized service offerings, there is cost control, there is overall service offerings. I spoke about the delivery tracking and customer support as well. So technology is also trying to make sure that logistics management is carried out effectively. Then we have warehouse management system. In warehouse management system, um, or we call it as well, we're going to speak about that a bit also, warehouse management system and transportation management system. Now these are two things that have been implemented to reduce cost and improve overall service as well. Okay, so the management often what they do, that they turn towards warehouse management systems when the workload or when the customer specifications are exceeding the capability of management to evaluate the data in an effective manner, or at times when the manual process fails to provide an opportunity to when it comes to expanding capabilities. A typical, okay, a typical warehouse management system is basically about supporting the overall oversight of daily functions that happen, such as your planning delivery schedules, allocating resources to move and store inventory within a warehouse. So that is when warehouse management system comes in picture. Warehouse management systems also operate of a database that sort of captures inventory related information like your SKUs, okay, and where they make sure that there is a identification code for each item. They have measurements, they have a pack, they have automated ID labels, they have inventory warehouse location and also manufacturing date. So this SKU basically provides all of that kind of information. Now, a key function of warehousing is order picking and packing them. Okay. So, if you would think that what is required now to fulfill an individual online order, so you have to gain an understanding of the warehousing information needed, such as your warehouse location number. You need to pick the sequence, you need to pick the type of the use, you need to pick the type of storage, you need to pick the location size or the capacity, and at the same time your storage or movement restrictions. So this will give you an idea of how an online order is being processed. At the same time, they also provide information around when it comes to supporting the operation aspect of moving inventories or storing inventories. It also helps to ensure that the warehouse management team can achieve resource optimization. In addition to that, the warehouse management system also implements the ISO 9000 quality management standards that provides process techniques and management tools for companies that want to deliver a consistent quality that meets customer requirements. So, because it's a quality standard of ISO, it means they have good quality standards when it comes to deliveries. Then we have RFID. Okay. Now the warehouse management system, they also utilize RFID to support in the warehouse. So I guess you would all be knowing the full form also, radio frequency identification. It's basically the use of electromagnetic field to track items, um, barcodes. Okay. It also assists in order picking. It also assists on locating where the item is, what's the size of the item, what kind of packaging is required for it. um, Even though RFID is used, it can be a bit cost prohibitive for small operations, okay, and at the same time it can be a bit cumbersome to use as well. But even though with that disadvantage, it's still preferred to use because it can enhance the authentication of the product, it can reduce the inventory level, and it can also increase overall cost visibility. Then we have voice directed technologies through RFID also, which can be a cost deterring factor as well. And also, RFID is seen that it is affected by issues around consistency in the supply chain. Okay, um, it the slowing the adoption of RFID is also something that is affecting the consistency, and then because of which that can be seen as one of the deterring factors. Then we move to TMS, that I was just speaking under WMS as well, is your transportation management system. It is basically a software, and the function of the software is it facilitates interaction between a company's order management system and its warehouse management system. Okay. or the order management system and their distribution center. So this system, it supports the movement of inbound and outbound goods through a series of transportation scenarios, that has to do around appropriate route, that has to do around mode of delivery, and also mode of delivery keeping the least cost factor in mind. Other than that, the TMS also provides information to support the payment processes using your electronic tendering or tracking or tracing to execute the shipment with a particular chosen carrier. So, the benefit of having a fully deployed TMS is obviously your reduced cost, due to the savings that you have incurred by the efficiency that it has provided when it comes to selecting routes and carrier and mode of selection, etc. Because of its increased visibility in the route selection and carrier cost, there are improvements in savings due to better cost accountability as well. At the same time, TMS also provides an opportunity for management to be proactive when there is troubleshooting issues, or implementing last minute changes to enhance the flexibility of the transportation process, which obviously will ultimately lead to enhanced service quality and potentially greater cost savings. Okay, then we move to few terminologies further, which is around the three terms. I'll just go through it in short, doesn't have to be in detail because not many companies are even using them by such names or short forms. So, yeah. The one is labor management system that was first introduced in the grocery and food services industry, and the idea was to track and manage the labor aspect of logistics management. Okay, what it does is it enables companies to break down the work task, then assign employees, and then track expected completion time. Okay, so sort of by benchmarking the performance from any kind of data that has been covered previously or historically, and then that becomes a benchmarking performance, and then it helps to track how much time does an employee need to finish this job. It also provides a means for management to implement incentive based pay. People say we work too much, or we have overworked. So that also gives a track that look here, this is the benchmarking performance, and this is how you have performed. Then we have GPS and CRM systems. GPS is your global positioning system. What does it do? It provides individuals with location information for directions and tracking. It also has enabled companies to manage their routes, monitor delivery times, and also lessen the burden of package tracking by allowing consumers to track their own items. Okay, and then we have CRM, which is customer relationship management. This is about enabling the tracking of information at the customer level, which means it facilitates tracking of orders, supports customer service inquiries, and many a times this is also used in collaboration with supplier relationship management. Okay, I hope these are making sense as of now. Just few more to go. Functions of internal logistics departments. Okay. Now there are a lot of tasks that are involved in the movement of raw materials, in the movement of finished goods throughout the entire supply chain process, and there are various internal departments and outsourced relationships that provide these functions for retailers. So procurement and purchasing, okay, they are a department that is traditionally considered as the beginning of logistics supply chain. So they oversee this process. It is an internal department and they oversee the procuring of resources. It can be office supplies, it can be raw materials, it can be goods for store operations, and even it can be about travel. This department primarily, what it does is identify suppliers, they negotiate contracts with them, then they establish the payment and mode of delivery, they establish a vetted supplier list of purchased items. They also do that by means of purchase orders, obviously. Um, but over the years, this department has often aligned with accounting function with regard to tracking and management of inventory levels. So the accounting department also comes into picture, but more or less the logistics is hardcorely handled by the procurement and purchasing department. Now, what logistic strategies we can use or implement to mitigate the risks that we see that come up? Okay. Now, given that there are multiple and complex nature of risks that are associated within a supply chain network, there are few things that we can do, or the following that I have put down here to minimize risks and also to improve the overall resiliency of the supply chain network. Okay, firstly, the supply chain data management systems, they should be established in such a way that they enable quick assessment of internal and external disruptions in the network. It can be due to natural disaster, or it can be due to unforeseen occurrence that impacts the movement or production of goods. Then agility is something that a corporate management perspective, which is critical, and it enables companies to react to supply chain disruptions within a window of time that minimizes loss, being agile. Okay, this need for agility also sort of confirms that we need to have standard operating procedures in place. We need to be transparent throughout the supply chain and also make efficient decision making to increase responsiveness. Okay. Then what also can be done is, prior to a disaster, it is important to be working collaboratively between vendors and companies placing orders. So this includes like a shared operating plan to address disasters, like a communication plan to support and decision making during a time of crisis. Companies should also have like a business continuity management plan that will enable operations to continue in the event of business disruptions as well, like a backup plan. Okay, if things don't fall in place. And then companies can also use push versus pull inventory control. Push is using forecast to predict demand, while pull uses actual order to determine what should be produced. So there are risks associated with both the methods. The use of pulling inventory process is faced with the risk of making sure that the most accurate information um, is achieved within a close to a real time basis. Okay, an example is Zara, where they manage the majority of their inventory by a pull method. Okay, and then finally, logistics management as a competitive advantage. Okay, so we know that competition and in the fashion business is so highly important because companies constantly want to create ways of being competitively advantageous. Now, since consumers are favoring business models that allow for immediacy when it comes to product offerings and delivery, an efficient logistics process should enable companies to establish a good supply chain network that is agile and also at the same time responsive to consumer trends. Now, this also, in the supply chain network, they should also provide real time data that will enable a company to ensure that tracking and delivery information is current and accurate, that they can manage lean inventory levels, because the order fulfillment data would accurately depict supply and demand, and it would also facilitate omni-channel and mobile shopping habits that encourages consumers to shop anytime and anywhere. Then the need for building up on trust, because in production relationships that exist for a company, one needs to be either vertically integrated or they are outsourced. So if you are vertically integrated company, um, they sort of try and maintain control over its entire supply chain, which means the company has its in-house design, they have their in-house sourcing and production teams. Now, knowing that the resources that are required to support such an infrastructure, vertically integrated companies are usually the large manufacturers like your PVH, your Tommy Hilfiger, your Inditex. They are the ones who can handle and manage a vertically integrated company. And at the same time, a vertically integrated company also maintains entire control of the supply chain. But the downside side of it would include fixed cost that is associated with the infrastructure and human capital investment. It would also be risks that is related around production. It can be risk around resiliency as well. Okay, whereas companies that outsource some or all of their production are basically the ones that seek potentially quick turnarounds when it comes to garment production, or either they are small fashion houses or they are companies with a business model that places resilience on lean production. So, the benefit of outsourcing in this case is the lack of capital investment, but the downside is also lack of production control. You don't have any control on production, which also may result in risk and compliance issues. So depending on what is the size of company and what are their financial statuses, retailers then establish relationships accordingly, keeping that in mind. And overall, the reason for saying all of that, if you see, no matter which kind of company you are, if you are vertically integrated or you're outsourcing, trust is vital and important in during all times. Then we come to information. The goal of logistic is to get information at the to get the right product, to get the right consumer at the right time, and the right price also. To ensure that happens, there are different layers of information that comes into picture within a supply chain management system. It is information about distribution, it is information around production, information around product, and also around customer. So it is vital that the information is shared. If it is, for example, at the customer level, then the information about consumer demographics, their buying preferences, how consumers engage with the product. So it is important. So overall, seeking information is only going to help the company in achieving the outcomes that they have set for themselves and for their target market. Then we have leadership. As with any organization, leaders are the ones who serve as someone who provides directions around vision or directions around support, or overall execution of a goal or initiative. And they also the that is also the case when it comes to supply chain management. An example of where this leadership is playing an active role is when it comes to movement of companies to focus around socially responsible business practices. Where companies or factories are being asked to certify production lines for socially and environmentally friendly labor practices. So while these efforts may cause slight rise in the cost of production, it is also clear that companies are feeling the pressure when they meet in the boardroom, the pressure to meet the demands of today's socially conscious consumer. Because you cannot just throw anything to the consumer and expect them that they're going to accept it because they are equally aware. So, companies' leadership is also causing the supply chain professionals to think about having good vendor relationships, having collaborative relationships. While cost is still a key driver when it comes to production, the leaders of the retailers are also trying to realize and recognize the benefit of managing, the benefit of having a good relationship will lead them to get good prices for a longer period of time. Um, and companies are also trying to work around with vendors to collectively identify and collectively implement opportunities for long term benefits, which means not just for themselves, but also different partners in the supply chain process as well. Okay, so that's about the chapter.